Yes, because I'm doing it through the YouTube studio. Okay. It says going live. And we're doing it.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, we did it.
We did it.
We're out here. Welcome, everybody. I want to talk real quick, just while we got the real the Gam fam here. The OGs. I made a post in the Facebook page about potential topics for the beginner's guide, because I'm running out of the ones that we brainstormed like a few months ago.
Yeah.
Running out of those, and so I asked for some different things. And one of the videos that a lot of people want to see is either taking a beginner or someone who's just started playing and training them how to throw until they get to like 400 feet or something.
Sure. Oh, I didn't realize I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry.
It was very quiet. I just
My
noticed
bad.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was that's one. And the other one is like they want me to learn how to throw lefty, because that'll be a similar experience.
Gosh.
I don't know if you've ever seen me throw lefty. It's I describe it as like a chimp with one of those baseball bats, just how it swings around just wildly.
Like, and then it goes somewhere.
That's my arm, and it hurts.
That's fair. I am the worst left-hand forehand thrower on the face of the earth. I guarantee it.
Just
no. Instant burn.
Oh, okay.
Cannot throw it flat. Just it's not good.
I can do nothing with my left hand.
Yes.
In video games, like movement is my worst thing, because that's all in my left hand.
I think I don't feel like I'm terrible at things with my left hand, but I'm certainly not like nowhere close to ambidextrous.
I don't know how people who like play righty baseball swing, how they're like, oh, I'll just throw a lefty backhand because it's the same weight shift.
Well, they're used to their arm moving that way, but it's beyond me still.
Doesn't compute for me.
Yeah, I don't know that.
But the problem with both of those is the taking a beginner and getting them up to 400 feet or whatever requires a lot more effort than a typical beginner is going to put in.
Right, and it's probably not a 5-minute video like most of the beginners guidelines are.
It would be a very involved series, and probably take more effort from me than it would from the beginner.
Correct.
Than the average beginner is willing to put in. The other thing is, if I'm going to put effort into developing developing any part of my game, I'm not going to put it into my left-hand backhand. I'm going to put that same time into just getting better, and then, yeah.
Yeah, or like just your forehand.
That too.
Yeah, I mean that's great.
No, my forehand's not great, but
if you put the time that you would have to dedicate to get your left-handed backhand,
exactly. Good. Drew, the camera's kind of shifted to the side so we could have room for the basket back here, because speaking of that basket, recruit lights are a thing.
What's up?
It's
check them out.
Here, I'll Vanna White if you want to talk about it.
Yes. Okay. So the recruit light is a brand new basket from Dynamic Discs. It has chains. It has a top and a basket. It has a pole in the middle and an easy base with which you can move it around. We don't have to pick it up for that. No, it's actually fantastic. We went and putted on it while we were shooting some videos, and catches really well. It assembles in less than a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to cut this video up because you just don't want to see me grabbing stuff off the ground. Yeah. But even uncut, I think it was like, I don't know, 48, 50 seconds.
Yeah.
From absolutely not put together to all the way put together. Mm-hmm. No tools. 1010
Discs just put out a video about the recruit light. I think that was really cool.
Dope.
The chains here slide back and forth. I thought that was really interesting, and they speculated that it would be so that putts like on the side have more cushion.
Yeah.
If
that makes sense.
Coming in here, it's going to slow it down.
I dig it.
I don't know. That's over my head.
Yeah, same. I know nothing.
A whole pole or just a bit of pole? It's the new Wabasket from Dynamic Discs.
Yeah, thank you. The new Wabasket light.
Yeah, that's it.
That was fantastic.
That was so funny. It has chains. Oh.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
We did it.
I say let's get after it.
Okay, I'll hit record then. 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Disc Golf Answer Man. Once again, I am not Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze. Instead, I am Robert McCall. Hello. I bowed for the camera.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know why. Just don't worry about
Not
it.
for the audio.
No, definitely
You could
not.
like rub your hair against it and they would know that
there
you
you
had
go.
to slow it.
With me once again in studio today is Danny Big Flix Lindahl.
That's what
Danny,
they call me.
How's it going, man?
It's going all right. I considered going with warm sun rough water
Yeah, cool.
just to be the opposite of Bobby, but nah.
Nah, big Flix.
It's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. We are back in the studio as Eric and Bobby are returning from Alaska today. The pictures they took were
Oh my goodness.
incredible.
It looks amazing out there.
Yes, like the best.
Yeah, the water is just gorgeous. It just looks like a mirror on the ground.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
So
And the course looks really cool too.
a little jealous that we didn't get to go, but at the same time, plenty of things to get done here. So here we are, we in here.
We around here.
Yes.
We
and
upon here.
also we out here. Let's
At the same time.
Let's talk a little bit about disc golf.
Okay.
You played disc golf this weekend.
Yeah. I played
How was that?
I played a tournament down in Chanute. It was a 2-round, very windy, wide open course. Not wide open, there was some trees, but like I didn't bring enough water and I have not played 2 rounds in a day in a very long time. And so first round was like pretty good, 990, like that's solid for me. And then
That's solid.
Second round was 908. And it didn't go
Okay.
very well. And yeah, so
It started with a 9.
yeah,
So that's something.
Is it though?
Barely.
Barely.
That's okay.
So yeah, I actually switched over to a cart. I transferred all my stuff over so that I can carry 2 of the 32-ounce water bottles. I can fit like a 24-pack of like Ozarka water bottles on the top.
Yes, true.
And then, yeah, plus I don't have to pick up my bag as much. So,
You're set.
yeah.
You'll never shoot that sort of round again.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's how it works.
I'm a 1,000-rated excuse maker. I don't know if you've...
Very, very good excuse.
I have excuses for disc golf, video games,
Yeah.
why I was late to work, everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And big time respect from you. I did not play any disc golf this weekend. My in-laws were actually in town this week.
Oh, cool.
Helping us work on the house some and prepare for the baby and all that stuff. So we, I was indoors a lot.
Yeah.
We did, however, go to Lindsborg, Kansas, which it has like a 30% or 40% Swedish population.
Oh, cool.
It was awesome. It's just like a small, quaint town. I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half from here. And yeah, so we just kind of like walked around and looked around, and it was
All right.
really cool.
Geez, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I did.
Fun. Sounds like a good weekend.
I mean, not disc golf, but
Yeah.
secondary to disc golf, it was all right.
It's all right. Yeah. If disc golf is not an option,
That's right.
it's pretty good.
That's right. Before we get into the questions, let's take a minute to talk about the Recruit Lite. If you're with us on video, you can see it behind us. If not, you can go to dynamicdiscs.com and check it out. The Recruit Lite is our newest basket. I would argue it's our most portable, maybe even more portable than the Scout. Okay. Size-wise, it's bigger than the Scout for sure.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to take it apart for it to take up less space.
It takes longer to set up.
Yeah, but it's pretty darn light.
Yeah.
It's easy to move around.
Is it lighter than the Scout?
I don't know. We'd have to look.
It's similar.
Yeah, but easy assembly.
Yeah.
I mean, super easy assembly. Like I said before, Danny and I were shooting a video on it. I put it together in less than a minute on the second time that I put it together. No tools required.
Yeah.
It is the type of basket that if you're on the go or if you just want an affordable practice basket, man, this is it.
It's got a lot of chains too. It's sturdy.
The chains seem heavy, like
Yeah.
heavy duty,
Easily.
considering that it's a more affordable practice basket.
Easily the chain assembly is the heaviest part. Like when you're taking it out of the box and stuff like that, it's like, oh, the base, here's everything else. And then the chains is like the heaviest part. So.
Yes, definitely. So if you haven't gotten one of those yet, you can go to dynamicdiscs.com or you can go to your favorite local retailer and pick one up there. I think you'll like them. We got a super chat from 888 Huskers, $4.99. Thank you, 888 Huskers. Appreciate that. He says, okay, so tell us when the Paratrooper bag is coming out. Hope the ratings update was a good day for everyone. The ratings update was not much for me, as I have not played competitively in a while. Did yours change at all?
Went down. Yeah, it went down 9 points, I think. I'm at 960 now.
Yeah, dang it.
So, I mean, I was kind of okay with that 969 because like, it's not a good rating, but nice.
Right.
And now that I'm at 960, I need to do something about it and actually do better, which is why I played a tournament this weekend and averaged 950.
I'm telling you, that's the way it goes. As soon as you shoot a good first round, just under your rating, that's coming the second round. I feel that for sure. So thanks for the super chat. And as far as when the Paratrooper is coming out, I don't have a good answer for that.
They don't tell me these things.
And also, even if I did, I don't think I should really
Yeah.
just come out and say it. I will say next few months, keep your eyes out. It's going to be good.
It does
I think
not
y'all are going to
actually
like
come
it.
with a parachute, though.
Yeah,
It
common
sounds like
misconception.
it looks kind of like it. Like there's 2 zippers on the sides that would be like useful, although you'd have to take it off and unzip it and then put it back on. But if you're an experienced skydiver, you might be able to fit a parachute in there.
Yes.
But as the company Dynamic Discs, we do not endorse skydiving with our disc golf bags.
Yes, thank you. And if you do that, please don't sue us.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Jonathan Van Ders. I've never called him Jonathan. My life. JVD is in the chat. I saw the studio studio audience that you guys did for a certain level of Patreon. They made Dymax minis with people's faces who are at that level, and then put it behind them in the studio. Really super cool. So well done, Johnny V. I think you crushed it.
That'd be so cool if they had like an Arduino or something that could make them all shake whenever they cheered.
Yes. Yeah.
Yay! Good
point, Johnny. You did it.
Or they could like fling themselves at Terry every time he says something dumb.
It feels like there are infinite options. Let's get on to the questions. As always, you can go to discgolfanswerman.com to submit your questions. We said that we wanted you guys to challenge us this last week by submitting a lot, and you did. Okay. So we've got lots of questions to cover. We are not going to make the same promise this week that we will cover the most questions in any episode.
Okay.
But we are going to answer lots of questions.
All right.
Let's do it. First question comes in from Lincoln. His subject is glide, a potential warm take.
Lukewarm.
Yeah. He says,
I'll measure the temperature of it as you read it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Potential warm take for you guys. I think that glide as a flight dimension is a pointless number. If I'm wrong, please educate us as to what glide really means and why it matters. Most glide numbers are all 4 and 5 on drivers anyway. Keep it real.
That's a pretty hot take.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'll dismantle it.
Go for it.
Of course it matters.
Yeah.
It matters because glide, while it's the hardest to quantify, it's the one that I'd say passes the eye test the easiest, right? If something has high glide, it's obvious out of the gate. First time you throw an escape, you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is staying in the air forever.
Same with like a river.
Yeah.
Those are both discs with 6 and 7 glide, by the way.
Yes. Very high.
Wait, I don't know that
numbers.
the escape has 6 now.
It might be 5. Either way.
Might be 5. It has a lot.
Lots of glide. So while I understand what you're saying, I think that glide, when it's defined as the amount of time that a disc wants to stay in the air, like how much a disc wants to stay in the air, it's hard to quantify, but it is something that you can notice a difference in. If a disc doesn't have as much glide as another, generally that amounts to more distance and more airtime. So that's what I got for that.
Yeah, so if you take 2 discs that are of similar stability, like the Enforcer and the Raiders, say like a Fusion Enforcer and then the Domi Lucid Raiders, they are similar stability-wise, but they have different glide. The Raider definitely has more glide than the Enforcer. And so when you see a disc that has lower glide, that's going to be one that's more geared towards accuracy, more like your placement shots, rather than one with a 5 glide that's going to be more for your distance lines where, yes, you're still trying to be accurate with it, and yes, you can still be accurate with it. Maybe other people can be more accurate than I am with it, but that's beside the point.
That's what
the 5 glide is going to be more ideal for that. So I think that's where a big part of where the differentiation comes in, is kind of what the disc is designed for, and the glide number can definitely help you figure that out.
Yeah. Next question comes from Gabe, and his question is about form. He says, hey to GAM crew, love the work you do and the help you provide. I've recently started to get serious about improving my game, but could use some advice regarding disc choice. I've heard over and over again pros talking about finding discs that work right for you and mesh well with your style and form. However, since I am new-ish to the sport, I feel there are some serious steps I will need to take in improving my form. Are there any, I don't know which word to use here, beginner, neutral, or easy, discs you would recommend while dialing in my form? Or should I still be exploring around to find discs I like? Thanks.
Well, Gabe, I think you should start with slower discs, because the slower discs are going to require a clean form. If you have a wobbly throw that's turned over on Anheuser, that's not very powerful, doesn't have a lot of finesse, but you throw something fast and overstable, it's going to fight that and still give you like a reasonably good shot. Well, not good, but a reasonably effective shot. But it's not going to teach you how to do anything better, right? It's not going to require you to throw it well. Whereas if you throw something like a putter or a mid-range, because the rim isn't as wide, because it doesn't have as much speed, it's not going to be nearly as forgiving, and it's going to require a cleaner throw. but you're going to end up with a lot more control because of that. Because you have to throw it clean, then the disc is going to fly a lot straighter. You're going to be able to work the angles with a lot more touch. And once you've developed that clean throw with the slower discs, then the faster discs are going to fly even farther and work even better for you. So I would definitely recommend trying some putters and some mid-ranges to get a clean throw and work on that, and then move up to distance drivers. A lot of players will play putter-only rounds, or I just always try to, whenever I'm playing a casual round, if I've reached a hole with a faster disc, I'll throw the next slowest disc. The next fastest disc, I guess would be the right way to say that, until I can reach it with that one and move on down from there.
Yeah, I dig it. Next question comes from John. He asked about a disc supported by both the basket and the stump. Is it in? Yeah. So he said, I'm linking a recent Reddit post with a picture where a disc has come to rest supported by both a stump and a low-lying basket. Would you count this as in a sanctioned event?
How does he know that the basket is lying?
Yeah, that's right. You yellow belly.
He's fibbing.
Yeah, I believe the rules are ambiguous when it comes to this, but also that any card mate or TD would count this out. Also, could you address the rules in the context of a disc that crosses the plane, rolls around on the ground, and comes to rest leaning on the basket? This would meet some interpretations of 807B, which says in order to complete a hole with a basket target, the thrower must release the disc, and it must enter the target above the top of the tray and below the bottom of the chain support and come to rest supported by the target. So take a second to talk about the basket and stump, and I'll talk about the other.
So this basket told me last week it would be there at 3 o'clock.
Lying.
No, the basket and the stump, so the wording of the rules is that it has to be supported by the target. It doesn't say fully supported by the target. And it also doesn't say partially supported by the target. But I think that as I read that, is as long as it breaks the plane and it ends up being supported by the target by any portion of the target, then it counts. I do know that if you splash through on like a really windy day, your disc goes all the way through and then it lifts up and lands on top of the basket. That counts. Or I would guess that if it splashes through, rolls around on the ground, and then leans up against the pole, it's still come to rest and it's supported by the target. And so that should count as a made putt.
See, that one I can't get behind.
Why not?
The leaning on the pole part. Because that disc could be... Okay. This is a hard one.
It has to break the plane first.
It has to break the plane. So let's say, all right, a disc hits all the chains, spits back out, rolls around, and rests against the pole. I don't think the pole is necessarily a part of the target, because the only parts that are active in every target are like a basket and a top assembly, right? So I don't know. I don't think I would be able to count that one, because that's the second part of the question.
Yeah.
Now the first part I get, and if it's leaning over the basket portion, yes, but never ever is there a disc supported by the pole that you'd be like, oh, that's in. I don't think you could. I understand
if the basket were to just disappear, just get Thanos out of existence, and the disc were to fall, that's counted as supported by the basket.
Okay, but I wonder if it's talking about the tray portion of the basket.
It doesn't say.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't.
And the pole, I think, is as much part of the basket. When we sell you a basket, we sell you a pole.
Oh, that's fair. Needless to say, don't do that.
Yeah, probably just throw it in the basket.
Yeah.
In the chains, not in the pole.
And then just make sure it stays in there.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to do it.
That's usually the best way to do it.
I missed a super chat earlier from Donald Olson. Donald sent $2. Thank you, Donald. He says, what keen shoe do you recommend for disc golf? I don't remember the specific models, but most keen, like waterproof, low top hiking shoes are pretty darn good for disc golf. There's one that Paige Shoe likes called the Terradora. They don't have men's versions of those, but she likes playing in those a lot. I would just explore around and find the ones that are the most active looking, maybe not so geared toward hiking, but more kind of like trail running, stuff like that. Those would be the ones that I'd recommend.
I think that's really important. A good point is, ankle support feels great for hiking, but when you're throwing a disc, you want to be able to move your ankle so that you can push off your toe effectively, and you can get the brace from side to side and stuff like that. And if you have lots of people, when they start playing, they'll say, oh, my tennis shoes are getting tore up. I'm going to go get some really big, heavy hiking shoes, and these will stand up to the wear and tear. And you're right, they will, but you won't be able to throw as effectively if you don't have that mobility in your ankle.
Correct. Another $2 super chat from Doc Zen. He says Donald Olson to get us to read the previous super chat. Sorry I missed that one, Donald. And thanks, Doc. Appreciate it, guys. Let's keep it moving here. Next question comes from Nicholas Lerma. His question is about off-axis torque. He says, I've been working on my form and getting the field work in like you guys suggested for my release angle instead of trying to time my release. It's improving. However, I'm now experiencing some of the wobbles after release on my backhand shots or when I really put power on front hand throws or forehand throws. I like front hand throws.
Front hand's not bad.
Have you heard people call them finger pop?
Yeah, Matt Lloyd does,
That's
doesn't he?
funny.
No, that's a Matt Dollar thing.
It's like a southeast of the country sort of thing. Louisiana, Mississippi, finger pop. Alabama.
Pop. I like it.
All right. I can hold the Hyzer, Anheuser, and flat release angle pretty consistently, but that off-axis torque makes the line a bit inconsistent. Why do that?
Why do that?
Well, that's the problem. That's what off-axis torque does. It torques the disc off of your intended line out of the gate. Some of the wobbles after release on my backhand shots are when I really put power on forehand throws. Okay, so when you're throwing a forehand, I think there's a misconception that you have to use as much arm as you do for a backhand throw to get it to do what you want to do. Because your wrist is so much more active on a forehand throw, and I think there's across the board probably a little bit more range of motion from the as far back as you're going to have your wrist to as far forward as you're going to have it. There's a lot more variability. So it's easy to try and overswing that shot, to try and just hammer it and roll your wrist over or just roll your wrist over. That's the primary problem. Why the disc does that is when your reach back and kind of where you're about to reach the hit point, when that doesn't match the angle of your follow through, you flip your wrist over even on a forehand or backhand, that's what causes off-axis torque. And yes, it does make it inconsistent. That's why you work to fight it so much.
So everything in your throw should be designed to work around the exact angle that you want the disc to release on. Everything should be focused on pushing the disc forward on this angle and rotating the disc on this angle. And so what happens on a forehand throw is if you throw your forehand and it's going to be on the right angle, and then you roll your wrist, your thumb will push down on the outside of the disc while it's spinning, and that will cause it to wobble. And it's off-axis is any torque that isn't in line with the disc around what it's rotating on.
Yeah.
And that's what causes it to wobble. And so usually the way that I teach to fix it is to try and focus on getting more spin on the disc, because more spin will kind of brute force through the off-axis torque. It will kind of push through it and force that clean rotation. But also focusing on spin helps to get that rotation aligned around the axis. So grip can also be an issue. If your backhand grip is too offset in a different direction, you want to try and have your thumb over your pointer finger when you're gripping a power grip backhand, because that's going to help the disc pivot out of your hand and get that more spin. Because a lot of times when people throw, they will be pushing the disc into their hand more than or a lot more than they should, and then all of their fingers will kind of thunk off all at once. And when that happens, all of those fingers are providing a little bit of a different force, and that can cause the disc to wobble as well. So my advice would be to try and pinch a little bit more with your pointer finger and your thumb on your backhand grip and focus on getting as much rotation as you can put on the disc.
Yeah. $10 super chat coming in from Ace Run Productions. Appreciate that, Ace Run. He says, ever feel like your lower body and upper body aren't talking to each other? This weekend, Felix, what's up, Felix? Felt like my lower body was too slow and upper was too fast. Tips to fix.
That's a very common issue.
Yeah.
It most often happens because of reach back timing, or backswing timing, as I'm starting to try and call it, is if you're reaching back early or you're turning away from the target too early, that usually if you turn away during your X step, that puts your back foot pointed away from the target. And then naturally your hips are going to turn to reach that front foot forwards. And that means that you end up kind of flat footed with your weight over your heels and your toes farther apart than your heels. So what happens when your hips rotate forward to reach that front foot forward is your hips have already used the range of motion that they would use to power the shot. So if you delay your reach back until after your X step and you can keep your hips sideways while you're X stepping, then your hips will turn as you reach back, and from there you can throw right away. And so from the peak of your reach back, when you're ready to throw, your hips are turned away from the target, and they have that range of motion to rotate through to the release.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Felix, and thanks for the 10, bud. Appreciate it. Next question comes from Shay Stevens. The subject is a lost disc is returning. Welcome home.
Wonderful.
Hello, DeGam crew. I have a question about discs returning home. While playing a casual round, my go-to fairway driver caught a bad tree kick and rolled into a dark, soggy abyss.
Oh, no.
Dang it. Despite 30 minutes of golden retriever tosses, I was not able to salvage it, and the leeches that were sticking to my retriever were enough of a deterrent to stop me from diving in after it. That's a smart play.
Yeah, that's quite the
You got to count your losses sometime. I said my goodbyes to my old friend and pressed on. However, the awesome volunteer crew that was at the course was able to dredge it back up for me a few days later. I will be reclaiming it at the next tournament there, and my question is, after I hug it, kiss it, and tell it I'll never throw it in the water again, and this time I mean it, should I bag it for the event? First off, don't kiss it.
Yep,
Gross.
it probably stinks.
There's a decent chance that there's something nasty on it.
Does it come with leeches?
Yeah, possibly still leeches. You're going to want to check that thing. I've worked some new fairways into my bag to replace it, and I've thrown them for a couple of months now. Should I go with the discs I've been working with recently, or bag Old Faithful and hope it isn't spiteful? Thanks for your input, and as always, keep it real.
You threw me in the water, I'm going to hit a tree then.
Yeah, in your face.
I like it.
I would work with what I'm most familiar with right now. If I had time before it, like let's say it was my absolute favorite disc, the most favorite one that I've ever had.
That disc, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just let's say it was, and I threw it in the water. Stupid, right?
Dang it.
If I got there early enough, I would test it out, and if I felt good about it, sure, I'd throw it back in. If it flew the same as before, and I felt like I was going to trust that more than the discs I currently had in my bag, no problem. But if you don't have time to throw it before the competitive round, I would stick with what you've been working with, because you're more familiar with those recently than with that one a few months ago.
Especially if you've played a practice round and you
Yes.
were able to practice with the new discs, definitely.
Yep.
Also, frequently when I get discs back that have been in the water for a while, they are a little bit more understable.
Yes.
So yeah, I would have it. I might bag it just for old time's sake, but and maybe like test it out in between rounds or something like that. But I would probably stick to the disc that I know better.
Yeah. Next question comes from Jason. This is a potential hot take about PDJ ratings and divisions. Hey, DeGam, I hope y'all are doing well. Love the podcast. Thanks, Jason. I think that people who don't have a current PDGA rating should have to play in a different trophy-only division. Example, I started playing tournaments last year, and in the third tournament I played, I was in the purple division.
Purple.
I wasn't aware that divisions were by color, but you know what? No, I have seen gold encompasses like 980 to 1,000.
I've seen like T's, like a courses that's like a gold course or a white course.
No, I've seen divisions by color, but I've just never seen purple before.
Okay.
So whatever. In the purple division, in a large tournament based on ratings, and a player that didn't have a PDGA rating played in the same division and shot 14 under in the first round, which ties the course record from the AMTs. This tournament gave out store credit based on finishing position in each division. I think if someone doesn't have a PDGA rating, they should have to play in a new division, which is trophy only. No extra discs, store credit, swag, etc. for winning. If you want to win stuff for winning tournaments, you should have a rating and play your correct division. What do you guys think? Thanks, and keep it real.
I mean, sounds like he was just in the wrong division.
Yes.
And that happens whether you have PDGA rating or not. Lots of times players will either deliberately tank their rating just to play in a lower division or stuff like that. That's really unfortunate, but it happens regardless of whether or not you have divisions.
Right.
The problem also with having ratings defined divisions is that ratings tend to vary a decent amount based on where you're from. For example, in Little Rock, when I moved to Emporia, I was like 970 something rated back in the good old days. And I was really pretty good in Little Rock. And I would say that would compare to like a 990 golfer here in Emporia. But as we all know, when you work in disc golf, you get worse. Another excuse. Look at that.
Wait.
Anyway, except Robert.
Got him.
Okay. Fair point. But yeah, so just because ratings vary a lot based on your area, if you have someone coming from out of town, stuff like that, I think the baked-in way that the PDGA deals with this is charging people $10 more per tournament if they don't have a PDGA rating.
Yep.
Then what do you think?
There is a possibility that somebody just shows up who has 850 rated skills and just happens to have the day of their life they throw every perfect shot and make every perfect putt except for 4 holes because he shot 14 under. That's possible because the ceiling is so much higher when you're playing in a lower rated division, right? It's possible that they could just go off and shoot their best. So it's probably worth talking to the TD about and saying, hey, if they're going to play more events, I would love to see a little bit more accurate division for them. But if somebody pops off for one event, it's hard to say unless you know that they are guaranteed tanking their rating or sandbagging. It's hard to get really mad at them.
Can TDs force players to play in certain divisions?
They can if there's a rating.
Oh, okay.
Without a rating, I don't know what they can do. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. This question comes from Drew, and this is about putting downhill. He said, there's nothing I despise more than putting downhill. I overthink it, miss often, and overall don't have a good time. We have bad blood.
You're going to have a bad time.
I phrased it this way in hopes to get Bobby to sing Taylor Swift.
We're going to have bad blood.
It's not Bobby, but I mean. No,
I'll do my best. Oh, Bobby would do it way higher. Bobby
yeah.
Gonna have bad
He would do it way higher. Friggin' Bobby. What are some good tips for downhill putts? I've tried taking a knee at times, but it seems to throw off my arm movement and momentum. Great question, Drew. All right, so depends on how downhill we're talking. If it's like a cliff downhill, I understand taking a knee, but I still wouldn't recommend it. The way that I like to mess with downhill and uphill putts is by changing the width of my stance. So if I'm taking a downhill putt, and let's say my feet are typically right around shoulder width apart. If I'm about to putt, but in like a staggered stance, like a straightforward putting stance, not a straddle. If I'm going to take a downhill putt, I want to extend my back foot farther back. What that's essentially going to do is make my reach back on my putt longer than it normally is, and my follow through a little bit shorter, but my putting stroke is going to feel like it's the same length. I think that's what makes me the most comfortable on downhill putts. The reverse is true for uphill putts. Whenever I'm putting uphill, I'll bring my feet closer together, which makes my reach back shorter, but my follow through longer. Same length of putting stroke, but the longer follow through helps you to get the disc up in the air. The disc is out in front of your body for a longer amount of time. The opposite is true on a downhill putt. When your reach back is longer, the disc is in front of you for a shorter amount of time. That helps you to keep it a little bit lower and keep that nose down to match the slope that you're putting on. That's how I like to handle it. I don't like taking a knee personally unless I have to, but I've seen some people do it successfully.
I think kind of a straddle putt kind of removes a lot of that. If you're comfortable with a straddle, that's going to your aim is just going to be relative to that. So just be aiming up or down, but it's still going to have a lot less with your balance and your weight shift. But the best advice I have is to practice it.
Get good.
Yeah, just go throw some putts at a downhill basket. Next time you're at one, throw a few extra putts at it and try and figure it out. You don't necessarily have to aim for the middle of the chains too. You can kind of aim for lower and try and just throw it straight in the basket, and the chains will kind of hold it in there. It's going to be different for everybody's putt. I'm a spin putter. I tend to straddle on those super uphill or downhill putts just because then that means that my weight shift has less of an effect on it. I would advise against what someone in the chat says was a turbo putt if you're going downhill. Turbo putts work great for uphill because the disc is higher, but if you're aiming at a gap that's like this normally, it's going to be like this on a downhill putt, and then if you're turboing on top of that, there's virtually no way the disc can make it in. So
right, unless you're Johnny McRae and you're a fantastic turbo putter.
He would skip it downwards.
Yeah, but even he, I don't think uses turbo putts exclusively on downhill shots. You know what I mean?
I think he uses them uphill mostly on elevated
and with
baskets.
A certain wind situation. I think right to left.
Sometimes he just feels like it too.
Yeah,
just jams it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would just practice. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's all we can do, man. Before we move on, we want to talk a little bit about Trilogy Challenges. I know that you've heard us talk about them quite a bit, but we mean it when we say the discs this year are fantastic. And if you don't play one of them, you're missing out. So go to trilogychallenge.com. Check out where we currently have Trilogy Challenges. If there's not one in your area, you can sign up to run one. It's really easy to do. You can take pre-registration to cover the cost of the player packs. We handle prizes. We handle entry fees. Man, it's just easy. So,
is the UDisc thing live?
It is not quite, but it will be soon.
The U-Disc thing is coming.
Yes, and it's going to make your life
so much easier.
Yes, 100%. But if you haven't done so already, trilogychallenge.com. Check out the discs this year. They're so good. They are so good.
They're good.
That's all there is to it. Next question comes from Jordan. His question is about gripping the outside of the disc. He says, hello.
Hello.
I've been trying to improve with disc spin. I heard on the show to hold the outside of the disc. I also hear to not bend your wrist. My question is, after the power pocket, do I still try and keep my hand on the outside of the disc as long as possible and bend my wrist? Jordan, pretty much. Your wrist has to bend at some point. When we talk about not bending your wrist, that's mostly for, and I'll let you get to this because, you talk about it a lot, but that's mostly for your reach back and then getting into the power pocket. The only time that I think about my wrist bending is when it's forced to because of where the disc is relative to my body. That's how I think about it, though.
But I think it's important that you're not bending it too much, or you're not like consciously bending it.
Yeah. I'm not thinking about bending it. It only happens because the disc can't move forward anymore.
Yeah.
Without it.
As a result of moving the disc forward.
Correct.
The reason that people will tell you not to bend your wrist, and I don't tell people to bend their wrist, is because it reduces your grip strength. If you hold onto a disc like this and then you curl your wrist, your grip strength gets to be a lot weaker just because the tendons that are holding it get weaker.
Yeah.
And so Robert is pulling with more of a straight pull, kind of straight through past his chest to a release point. In general, I kind of release more out to the left, and that lets me keep my wrist a little bit straighter. I teach a neutral wrist because that's the strongest. You definitely don't want to have your wrist open because that's
also
pulling
not
from the front.
Also not closed.
Yes.
Like try if you're listening to this right now, because this was a revelation to me just now. I didn't ever know the reason. I just knew you weren't supposed to bend your wrist. But try closing your wrist, like bringing your palm towards your forearm and grabbing onto something. You can tell how much easier it is to bring your fingers into your palm when your wrist is in line with your forearm.
Yeah. It's crazy the difference that it makes.
Yeah,
so that's why you don't want to curl your wrist.
Everyone in the chat right now.
As far as did I miss the button or is it going?
Brad said unsubbed.
Did we do it? I think we did it.
Hey, are we back? Hello?
I think we did it. And I've never been wrong before.
Same.
So we should make a note that at 38 minutes, it cuts out for a bit. Or 33 minutes.
I'm looking at myself here. Fixed. Back.
Fixed.
Back. We're back. You're back. Thank you. Okay.
Awesome.
So let's just act like that never happened.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in, by the way. We appreciate that.
Thanks for sticking with us.
So let's circle back to that question real quick.
What was the question?
This question comes from Joshua.
Okay.
The subject is backhand flat or Anheuser release. He said, I'm almost entirely a backhand player. My most comfortable release is Hyzer from extreme to slight. I'm so much more accurate throwing a Hyzer flip. This keeps me from being able to throw turnovers or long bombers without something understable. Same. When there is no wind, I have no trouble on the course, but as soon as the wind picks up, the understability of my discs really shows. What drills can I do to practice and increase the consistency of my flat releases or Anheuser force flex shots? Thank you for all you do. Thanks, Joshua. Go for it. I don't know if it's a drill thing so much, but go ahead.
I think it's just practicing in a field and working on those shots. The biggest form thing that's going to have to change is probably going to be offsetting your plant foot more and leaning a little bit more over your heels. Now, I don't necessarily think that it's a good idea to lean over your heels when you're throwing. I always teach to keep your weight over your toes, and it should be. And it's even more over your toes for a Hyzer release. It's just a little bit less over your toes for those flats or those Anheuser releases, especially something like a roller is where it's over your toes in your X step, but then because your plant foot's so far offset to the left, that's when you come over on the roller angle. So, I think the best way to do it would just be to practice in a field and make sure that you're following through down.
Yeah, to the ground. And it's going to feel like you're throwing it and you probably will sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's the key for me is following through toward the ground. I'm about that.
Yeah, that's a big thing that a lot of people don't get is following through up for Hyzers and then down for Anheisers. That really helps a lot with the nose angle. It helps because a lot of Anheisers will kind of come out floaty and they kind of just do that. And that's if you're following through up for them, they'll kind of pitter out.
Yeah, I would say that's my miss on Anheisers for sure. So follow through toward the ground.
Oh, I remember the other thing I was going to say.
for it.
The pull is actually going to be a little bit higher too for those Anheisers or flat shots. If you're coming through kind of low for those Hyzer flips, raise it up a little bit for those flat shots or Anheuser shots, and then they should come out a little bit more naturally.
Yeah. Next question also comes from Joshua. I believe it's a different one, though. And his question is about disc selection for a newer, older player. He said, "Hello, DeGam fam. I've had the pleasure of introducing disc golf to my father, and he has been really enjoying it.
Awesome.
It's been great to see someone humble with no experience or interest to muscle the disc, learn to throw the right way.
Cool.
We spent a few sessions in the field before we even went to a course. His form looks better than mine, and probably mine. Currently, he's throwing a base plastic Truth and a seasoned premium plastic River. He can throw the Truth on a line up to 300 feet. Awesome. And the River on a line up to 300 to 350 feet.
Sick.
The only problem is that's all he can do right now. Hyzers and Anheisers feel uncomfortable for him, and I don't want to push him to mess up his form or worse, potentially hurt himself. What discs would you recommend I get him so that he has an option for dogleg lefts or something that will drift right without cut rolling? Forehand's not an option." Okay, so the way that I think about changing your angle to throw a Hyzer or Anheuser, if you are good at flat shots, which that's not usually the way that it goes. Most people don't get good at flat shots first. It's something that comes over time. But if that is something that you're good at, the easiest adjustment that you can make is just like Danny talked about, putting your weight a little bit more over your toes when you're throwing a Hyzer, and then lean your torso slightly forward. And then if you're throwing a Hyzer, your reach back is going to be a little bit lower, and you're going to follow through higher. It's really just, if you're already good at a flat shot, you can throw Hyzers and Anheisers, assuming that you're physically able to, just by tilting your torso a little bit forward for a Hyzer, a little bit back for an Anheuser, and then talking about the follow through that we did a second ago. High follow through for Hyzers, low follow through for Anheisers. But if it's really like, if that's out of the question as well, something that I'd recommend for, if he likes throwing the River really straight, I think you might look at something like an Explorer or a Getaway. That's going to, yeah, got him. That's going to be the thing that'll just go straight and then finish left for him. The Explorer less so than the Getaway, but both are going to be pretty similar. The Getaway's a little bit faster. That's something that's great to start straight, go, finish some to the left. To the left. If you are throwing the River and you like something to go to the right, I would recommend
Underworld?
Yeah, that's the disc that I was going to say. Because I think the Witness is probably a little too understable. You also might try something like the Hatchet. But yeah, the Hatchet or the Underworld, both pretty understable discs. But if you're throwing a River 330-ish flat, I think those are a great stability to throw that same release, let them ride, and then finish over to the right.
Definitely.
That sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
Should we answer some questions from chat real quick?
We usually do those after.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Unless there's super chat.
No.
We'll do those after. All right, the next one comes from King Hyzer.
The king of them.
Yeah. We're honored to be in your presence.
May I be a bishop?
No.
Wait, is that chess or is that church? I get the two confused.
The answer to that is yes.
Okay, cool.
It's both. His subject is tricking yourself. He says, "Hey, Bobby, Robbie, and McCabe, thanks for all you do. Never again will you say this to us."
And chopped liver.
Yeah. Sorry, bro.
Dang it.
I have a question about long putts. On a recent post-produced round, Nate Perkins was speaking about James Conrad's long putts and mental game. He spoke about how strong the mind can be, that you can actually trick yourself into making long putts. Have you considered this? Can you elaborate? Can this be practiced? Thanks.
I've never once been known to make long putts, so I'll let you take this one.
I'll go for this one. Yeah, I love talking and thinking about the mental side of sports and specifically disc golf. So I don't think there's a technique that's specifically tricking yourself into making a putt, but there are techniques to remind yourself of the work that you've put in and the skill that you've acquired that's going to make your likelihood of making a shot higher than somebody who doesn't have that same catalog of shots to look back on. So people talk about creating a bank of good shots that you've thrown, that anytime you encounter a difficult situation or a shot that you're uncomfortable over, or let's say you're lining up a 30-footer and sometimes you don't feel great on 30-footers, you would think about this mental bank of shots that you have and say, and remember, this is how it felt when I made this 30-footer. This is what I was thinking, and kind of put yourself in that situation, then execute the shot. So I think that's one strategy to be able to do it. But what it really comes down to is with those top players, their mental game is very strong, but they also have the repetitions to go along with it. They've seen the disc go into the basket from 60 feet countless times, to where even if they're not comfortable standing over it, they can remind themselves, I've put in the work, I've practiced this, I've made this before, why can't I make it now? Even if it's unlikely, even if statistically it's unlikely that they make it, they can convince themselves that they're going to make it based on their past experience and the repetitions that they have. So I think accessing that mental bank of great shots that you need when you're not feeling confident over a shot, I think that's a really good strategy to employ.
On a shorter scale for myself, so this would be like for like a 25-foot putt, maybe a 20-foot putt, maybe a 10-foot putt, when I'm really worried that I'm not going to be able to make it really anytime, is going to be, I'm kidding, of course. What I do, part of my routine is I imagine making the putt. Yes. I imagine what the disc looks like as it's flying through the air and it goes in the basket. And then part of that is like, well, I just made it. I just saw the disc go in the basket. I just made it. I already did it. I've already made the putt. Now actually throwing the putt is just a formality at this point.
Yeah.
In my head, I've already seen the disc go in. I know what it looks like. I know I made it already, and now I'm just going to throw it.
Yeah. And that's the importance of visualization. Here's a plug for another podcast that we do here called On the Call. It's an interview podcast that I do with some of our sports top professionals. And the most recent one, not the most recent, the second most recent was with Paul Macbeth, and he emphasized the importance of good visualization. If you can see the shot, you're so much more likely to be able to execute what you see. And the way that you're able to see the shot more accurately is by practicing more, obviously. But assuming that you've got the time, assuming that you have the physical skills, visualization is vitally important to your success. So yes, I agree with Danny, and check out On the Call. The last few episodes have been fantastic. Fine. Not really because of me, but because of the players that are there.
Synopsis of what Robert just said is I'm basically Paul Macbeth.
Yes,
just
that's right.
Slightly less practice.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so y'all are very similar.
I was also kidding about 10 to 15 foot putts. I want to clarify that.
Yeah, you've never missed this.
No.
Same. Next question comes from Understable Dave. Nice. His subject is about exhaustion. He says, I'm an older, not very in-shape disc golfer, and I find that towards the end of rounds on more demanding courses, my short game goes away quickly. My short game is usually my strength, so this is not good.
No.
I feel that. Up shots I can usually park all over the place, and I can't putt. Up shots I usually park go all over the place, and I can't putt for anything all of a sudden. Throws go left, right, high, low, all over the place. Basically, my touch just vanishes. This can happen with no warning, and even when I notice it's happening, I can't seem to make any adjustment to compensate. Any ideas what I can try to do, what I can try to regain that touch when my body is giving out? There's a couple of things that I'd recommend. One, you kind of said for yourself there, when your body is giving out, the most basic one you can do is practice being on your feet for the amount of time that a disc golf round is going to take. Go and walk for a mile at a time if you're able to. 2 miles at a time. Wear your disc golf shoes when you do it. So you're used to feeling like you are in that situation. I think that's something that's really helpful. But a lot of times at the end of rounds, physically we are tired. So let's take care of that part first. Make sure that you're in the best shape that you can be in order to play disc golf.
I think ice cold water helps too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Staying hydrated, no doubt, vitally important. I agree. And if it's cold, it makes you feel like more refreshed. I don't think the science is there, but mentally it feels that way for me.
Also cocaine.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Wait, please don't do cocaine.
No, do not do that, please. But the other thing is you may be missing those shots because you're mentally exhausted as well. That happens to me a lot at the end of rounds when I've been really intent on focusing on every single shot, every single putt, like grinding out every last little thing, that by hole 14, it's like I don't have any mental energy left. So if I'm physically tired, then that just kind of compounds the problem. So the first thing I would do is work on your physical condition, walk that mile, 2 miles, 3 miles with your disc golf shoes. Take your disc golf bag sometimes. That's going to help you with that stamina. But then work on your mental toughness at the time. Focus only on the shot that you are standing over when you're throwing it, and then let your mind go in between shots. Both of those things are going to help you throw better shots toward the end of the round. And then the last thing is just be as fundamentally sound as you can at the end of the round. Don't try too hard. Don't be too relaxed. Just think about executing the way that you know how to. I think that's a good way to do it.
One of my favorite clips of an example of what you're talking about not really worrying, not overthinking the next shot while you're playing, is Paul Macbeth out at Idlewild a few years ago. Mm-hmm. It's an island green. It's super tight OB coming down the stretch, and everybody's like, it's really stressful, whatever. And then it's like a backup. They have to wait or something, and Paul Macbeth calls somebody over. He's like, look at the lizard up on the tree. And they're like looking at this weird looking lizard that's like crawling all over the branches. He was like missing a foot or something. I don't know. It was cool, but like nobody else notices a lizard on a tree in that situation, except the people who are confident in their ability to execute. So they're not stressed out over the next shot, and they're just out there enjoying nature. Yeah, and I think that's a really good.
They're being present in the moment while not focusing too hard on the circumstance in which they are in that moment. Yep. Right. So anyway, those are the recommendations that I have. Couple of super chats. One from Wesley Does Disc Golf, $2. He said, thanks for the shout out on my Recruit Light video. Yeah. As you said earlier, 1010 Discs put out a Recruit Light video. You should check it out.
I said that. It was actually Wesley, but with the guy from 1010 Discs.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, so Wesley did it. Yeah. Thanks, Wesley. Appreciate that. And then another $5 super chat from Chris Carpenter with no comment, just $5.
Hey, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Back to the questions. This one comes from Unanimous, and the subject is controversy.
Controversy.
Yes. I'm going to read this exactly like he wrote it.
Okay.
It says, Robert be like, first of all, it's anonymous. Gotcha, Bobby.
I believe he meant to be, first of all, it's anonymous.
Bobby, it's a... Yeah, whatever.
I tried, and you just do it so much better.
Well, yeah, because it's my voice. Like, I didn't make it up. But it's what
I just sound like that naturally, so you know.
That's just your normal voice. That's fair. All right, he says, question, since Emac used to throw the Buzz while being with Discraft, obviously he wanted the Emac Truth to be something like the Buzz, but now we have the Gatekeeper, which is more like the Buzz, but way better. When is Emac going to hop on Team Gatekeeper? I know it would be bad marketing, but I was just wondering, since the Gatekeeper is the best mid-range on the market. Emac, if you're listening to this, I'm only reading, okay? These aren't my thoughts. I was just reading what Unanimous said.
He would have stood up and walked out of the room.
Yes. But to go along with what you're saying, I do think the Gatekeeper is a fantastic mid-range. It has gotten the attention that it deserved and probably could get some more because it's super good. But to say categorically that it's the best mid-range in the game, I think is probably arguable. Some people, I'll tell you why some people like the Emac Truth more than the Gatekeeper. I'm one of those people.
I'll be Team Gatekeeper.
Okay, perfect. I like the Emac Truth more than the Gatekeeper because it's faster. It's easier to throw the Emac Truth farther than the Gatekeeper for me.
Counterpoint. Gatekeeper has less glide and less speed,
right,
marginally, so it's more controllable. It's easier to control the distance and place it exactly where you need to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, these are both true things.
These are the facts, yeah.
Okay, reason number 2. I like the stability of an Emac Truth out of the box. I don't feel like I need to work it into a different spot. I've thrown some Gatekeepers that I felt like, all right, that's a little bit more stable than I'd like straight out of the gate. Pun totally not intended.
Counterpoint, throw harder and everything will flip.
That's a good point. These are the facts.
Yeah.
But just to say, categorically, you can't say that a mid-range is the best disc because different discs do different things for different people.
Exactly.
However, the Gatekeeper is a fantastic disc, and it probably is more like the Buzz because the Buzz is a little bit slower than the Emac Truth. So I like the Emac Truth because I can throw it a little bit farther. And when you have an arm like mine, a little bit of added distance isn't bad. I like having that. But I understand those who are more about like less glide, pinpoint accuracy. Gatekeeper is good. And I've gone back and forth on the Gatekeeper. I've bagged it a few times here and there. So
I'm going to come out of left field with Biofusion Verdict.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
I like it just because it's beat up. It flies similarly to an Emac with a little bit more fade and a little bit less glide. So I get the control, the distance control of the Gatekeeper, but still the kind of the flight of an Emac.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's 100%.
They're quite good.
Whatever you're looking for. But I told Emac it was an Emac, and I think he bought it.
Nice.
Otherwise, I was afraid he would kick me off the team.
That's totally fair. Oh, we got lots of hot takes today.
Jeez.
I like it. This one comes from Corey. He says, is Worlds overrated? Hot take. I wonder what his question is about. Is the PDJ Worlds overrated? It seems that there is no meat and potatoes behind it besides the name/title. USDGC you must qualify for. DGPT Championship is based on points. NT Champ also points based, although no final battle. Seems like there should be more riding on that title besides an event with 1 or 2 additional rounds. Okay, so let's talk golf for a second.
You have a lot more experience than me, so I'm going to let you kind of argue towards the point of Worlds being prestigious.
Yes.
And I'll be the new golfer who's like, oh, it's just another tournament.
Okay, well, let's talk golf for a second.
Okay.
This last weekend, or maybe 2 weekends ago, I played a 2-person shamble with a friend from church. We had a great time. Collectively, we shot 9 under, which was awesome, right? It was only 2 rounds, but now let's think about the Masters. It's 2 more rounds. It's on a different golf course, but why does it get to be so much better, right? Why does it get to be so much better? Oh, yeah, because everyone understands it as that, okay? Worlds is so important because it's called the World Championship, and we mean it. You have to qualify for it or be invited for it, at least at the beginning. There are open invitations later, but there are some qualifications for you to guarantee your spot. And it is at a different location every year, so it's not like the USDGC in that one set of skills is more likely to win the USDGC year over year than it is at Worlds, since Worlds is at a different venue every year. And the fact that it's called the World Championships brings the best players in the world to play that. Everyone understands it as that, and so everyone brings their A game, or at least tries to.
There's a lot of money on the line, and usually the winner of a World Championship will get a signature disc, which is also a lot of benefits from the sponsors from that. And to try and communicate like how big of a deal Worlds is, besides just being another tournament, the fact that it's called the World Championships and it has all this riding on it. They could play the World Championships at Hammond Park and they would still have hundreds of people lining up to play it. Not that they could fit on the course. That's irrelevant. Right. But it has that, just calling it the World Championships and all of the I guess disc golf cultural prestige that we put behind that is what helps it carry so much weight.
Yes.
I've failed at counterpointing.
Yeah, that wasn't great, but you're speaking the truth. Now, I do think Corey makes a couple of good points here in that USDGC you have to qualify for, and that's a pretty elite qualification list. It's tough to qualify for DGC. Pro Tour Championship is based on points. NT Championship also points, but less of a finale. Sure, I would love to. I think it'd be cool to have something that's like a build-up to Worlds, where you play, I don't know, national tours or some other event series that gain you standings there. But these are different things, right? So like, once again in golf, because it's an easy comparison for us, the FedEx Cup is a season-long thing with different tournaments that allow you to accumulate points over time. But it's not like the Masters. It's not like the U.S. Open. If you win the Masters, you won the Masters. If you win the U.S. Open, you're called the Open champion. That's how World Championship is. If you win the Pro Tour, it's awesome and you get lots of money and you earned it. That's great. But if you win the World Championship, it's just a different title with different prestige attached to it. That makes sense?
Yep.
Did my best.
It used to be a lot more rounds. It used to be like
Way more
9 rounds or something like that.
Yes.
But what ended up happening is was it too big of a time commitment and there weren't enough venues that could handle that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Or something like that. They've changed it recently to just be, I think, 4 rounds.
Yeah. I think, did we do 4 rounds last year?
I don't remember.
I don't either. 888 Huskers with another $10 super chat. Thanks so much. Said, oh, snap. Hashtag Team Gatekeeper already snagged 4 aces this year, 2 with the Westside Gatekeeper. I've aced once since I moved to Emporia 3.5 years ago.
Jeez.
Hole 2 at Hammond. That's the only, that's the only ace that I have.
150 feet wide open.
Uh-huh. No, there's one tree in the way.
There's one tree, but it's
not in the line.
It's only in the way.
It is between the tee and the basket. But it was to tie Paige Shue at a league.
Wow.
And I came in with a lower tag, so I got to leave with it also.
Sick.
She was salty.
Nasty.
Anyway.
I've also only hit 1 ace since moving to Emporia.
Yeah, but it was a freaking sick ace.
It was nasty.
Yes.
Guess how far it was? More. More. It was 555 feet.
Yeah, it was a lot. He said, I pulled out all of my other mids except Justice and Clemens' Verdict and replaced them with Gatekeepers. I mean, it's a good disc. Like I said, no doubt about it. It is fantastic. No one's going to argue that.
Also, the Clemens Verdicts are fire.
Quite good. What kind of time are we looking at here? We probably have time for a couple more questions.
Let me pull up the other program. We're right at an hour.
Okay.
56 minutes.
All right. Let's do one more question and we will call it a show.
Okay.
Let's move on to this question from Heath. This is about a replacement disc for a beast.
I'm a fan of his bars.
Yeah, nice. He says, hello to Game Fam. I am relatively new to disc golf and have been working on trying out all different types of discs because you have to try them all. Yes. I'm really liking DD and Trilogy products. I currently have a beast that I primarily use as a right-hand flick disc. I would love to try something in the DD or Trilogy lineup that would replace it. Any suggestions? As always, keep it real. Hashtag Team Robert.
What?
That doesn't exist, but now it does.
His name's Heath, not Robert.
Heath, welcome aboard Team Robert. You and I are the only two in it, but it's awesome. Hashtag Team Warden because we out here.
I want to be on Team Robert.
We'll put an application.
All right.
You can apply just like everybody else, okay?
thehair@gmail.com.
That's right. Yes. It's Robert's hair at Gmail. Okay. Anyway. Replacement disc for a beast. I think the Escape is a great disc replacement for the beast. The beast is something like 10.5, -2.2. The Escape is slower, but I think it has a little bit more glide than the beast. The turn and fade are pretty similar. So the Escape is, I think that's the ticket.
Escape, or escape if you pronounce the word incorrectly.
Yeah, that's right. So Heath, thanks for the question and thanks for being the inaugural would be like the first time an event happened.
Yeah, like the first time.
Yeah. The founding member of Team Robert.
There you go.
I will join as the second member because I have to.
All right.
That's going to do it for Disc Golf Answer Man today. As always, if you would like to get your disc golf questions answered, go to I almost said dynamicdisc.com. Don't do that. Go to discgolfanswerman.com and you can submit them there. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we would love if you'd go to Apple Podcasts, to Stitcher, to Spotify, anywhere that you can leave reviews for a podcast. And just go ahead and drop us that 5-star rating. That helps us to rank higher so that more people can get some of the content that we've got for you here. So please give us 5 stars there, and we will see you guys next time.
25 points.
It's just 5 stars.
Well, there's 5 points per star, so it's 25.
Oh, nice. Good. Okay. Hey, bye. YouTube, awesome. Thanks for hanging with us. Sorry about the dropout there. Yeah, not much we can do. Mr. Drew said, did Robert just admit that his wife isn't even on Team Robert? Well,
oh man,
yeah, because Team Shay has been in existence for a long time and a lot. And for our son is on Team Shay. He literally only hangs out with her.
Dang it.
Yeah, it sucks.
What a mama's boy.
I know.
So, I'm Team Tina for life, though.
Yeah, that's fact. That's fact.
President of the Tina Oakley fan club, right here.
Yes. Yeah, she's pretty great.
They were talking about podcast sponsored players in chat. A Disc Golf Answer Man team.
Oh, sick.
I'm going to appoint myself on Disc Golf Answer Man.
Nice.
As a Disc Golf Answer Man.
Welcome to the team.
Hey, thanks.
I'm not on the team, but I just welcome people to the team. All right. There is one. Alex said, will questions that were submitted today but not answered be in the queue for the next podcast?
Nope, we burn them.
If they're not answered today, we delete all of them. Start fresh. No, we've got, let me look here real quick, Alex. There's still 15 questions in the queue. Check that. I need to delete the one we just did.
14
questions in the queue.
Once again, quick math.
So those will be answered in the next couple weeks. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's move on to
hot takes.
Yeah, disc golf hot takes. Danny's got a fantastic hot take.
I've been so hyped for this.
Yes.
I was talking about it on stream last night. Twitch.tv/DannyDisc. And everybody wanted me to leak it, but I didn't.
Okay, good.
So go there if you like being teased about leaks, but not actually leaked.
Yeah, and then if you guys in the chat have questions after that, we will take a few minutes just to chat with you guys and hang out. So
okay, ready?
Hang around. Let's do it.
And it's recording.
Welcome to another episode of Disc Golf Hot Takes. This is where we take all things hot.
They're so hot.
And debate them.
Like temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I think it's cold.
This is a hot take. All right.
You're welcome.
I think it's worth saying at the beginning that these opinions are definitely not ones that we necessarily hold. In this case, I'm going to be arguing for an opinion that I probably agree with less than a lot of the others that I've taken up. But yeah, I just want to say that at the beginning.
We're gonna have fun though.
It's a hot take.
Like a really hot take?
It is both spicy and temperature hot.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
I like it. Let's do it.
Okay. So there are a few places on the internet where you can submit a video of your form and have people critique it. They'll tell you things that you can do to improve, give you tips, link videos, stuff like that.
Okay.
I think that you should only be allowed to comment on those videos and give advice if you have been clearly verified to throw over 400 feet. I think if you can't throw 400 feet, you have more issues than the person posting the video, and you have no right to give that advice.
Okay, well, this isn't going to be a fun episode because I agree.
Uh-oh.
I'm in on that. No, I'm joking. Okay, so tell me why you think that.
Because a lot of the times I see people giving advice that is wrong. If someone is struggling with not reaching back far enough, right, and they're looking for tips on how to really turn their shoulders so that they're not rounding anymore, and someone will give them the advice to keep their eye on the target. While keeping your eye on the target is not something that will 100% prevent you from reaching back properly, it's a lot easier to reach back properly if you don't focus on keeping your head forward. I personally think it's much better to aim with your feet and your reach back than necessarily looking at the target. And so there's a lot of advice that you can find on these posts that is either not as helpful as it could be, as coming from someone more educated, or if it's just wrong.
Okay. How does the verification process go for proving that you throw over 400 feet? Like to get the verified check mark in these places, you have to submit a video?
Yeah, I would say submit a video to the page, and then the group will know who has been. You can scroll back through. It's a pinned post or something like that.
Okay.
To have everybody who's verified.
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, they have a blue check mark or something next to their name, so you know, like, okay, this person, if they throw over 400 feet, they definitely know how to throw properly. Okay, I'm going to disagree with that.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the reason that I think that is not the best way to go about something like this. We're kind of on two ends of the spectrum here. There is you can only comment if you throw over 400 feet end, which I disagree with. But I'm also not on the end that if you have just started playing disc golf, that you should definitely comment on how somebody is throwing. Because you probably shouldn't. I mean, maybe if you studied it, like, I don't know, maybe if you studied biomechanics in college and you specifically studied disc golf, and while you didn't play, you made it your life's work, then sure, tell us about how you should throw better. But I think that there are people who have fantastic form that don't quite throw 400 feet. That's a minority of people. But I think that there are also people who are just better at coaching than they are at playing, who can pick out little things once they've seen proper form enough, who can pick out little things and say, okay, let's use this as an example. Simon Lizotte throws the disc extremely far, super duper far. That's debatable.
It actually is that far.
Very, very far. And so somebody watches a video of him throwing, right? And they've got a pretty good idea of what his form looks like. Then they watch a video of someone who's brand new and they're only throwing, 200 feet. Without getting into the little things that make Simon able to throw as far as he does, there are some big things that probably a lot of people could see that would be helpful to share with this person who only throws 200 feet. A lot of times they're kind of swooping in their pull through, like they reach back really high, and so they kind of swoop. You'll notice that Simon doesn't do that. So I think somebody who can't throw very far could easily watch a video and say, hey, you're probably reaching back too high because it's creating an arc in your pull through. So I don't think that everybody should comment on those, because not everyone has a perfect idea of how to teach disc golf form. In fact, very few people have a really informed idea of how to teach disc golf form. But at the same time, there are some people with just a really keen eye who can pick up on small things or big things and be able to help out just a regular old disc golfer with their throw.
The thing is, if a newer player can see those things, a more experienced player is obviously also going to be able to see those things.
Okay.
Plus, if a newer player were to watch Simon throw, and then they were to watch the average new player throw that was looking for advice, they might think that Simon is moving faster in his throw, and so the newer player should move faster, throw at the 360, and then they'd obviously get more distance.
Okay.
So I think having the uneducated voices out there can cloud just cause extra static in the comment section or whatever, and too much advice all at once is definitely going to be hurtful.
Okay. So I can go with that, but let me counterpoint with this then. I don't think that throwing over 400 is the metric that we should use to say who can or who should or shouldn't comment.
It's just an easy measurement.
It is, but there are people who throw over 400 feet who have terrible form.
Fair point.
Terrible form. Just because you throw over 400 feet doesn't mean that you've conquered disc golf and that you do the fundamentals well. Heck, I throw over 400 feet and nobody would look at a picture of my throw and be like, do exactly this every single time. Some of it, maybe a little bit, but I know of the issues that I have, but just because you can throw over 400 doesn't mean that you should necessarily teach form. Now, I'm not going to teach people to throw like I throw. I can see how people should throw and be able to help them out with that. But just throwing over 400 does not qualify you as a teacher, in my opinion.
But like you're saying, you still know, you've been playing long enough, you have the education to be able to help somebody more effectively than a newer player would.
Sure.
And I think that that advice is going to be more valued. So even if there's less advice, because there's not going to be there's obviously fewer people who throw over 400 feet than everybody, there's going to be less advice. I still think that it's going to be more impactful and more valuable.
I can hear that. Okay, let me backtrack on if I'm using myself as an example. I learned to throw a little bit over 400 feet probably 10 years ago now, when I had been playing disc golf for 2 years, right? It finally clicked with me that if I didn't move quite as fast, that I could throw over 400 feet. But I still think, even with as broken as my form feels to me right now, I'm throwing much better now than I was then. So based on this qualification scale, I would be equally qualified to comment on people's form 10 years ago when I didn't have a rating, as I am right now when I'm rated 1005. I don't think that's the measurement that we should use.
I think focusing on the quality of advice from players who throw far, I think that's not necessarily the issue, because it is, you're going to get so much more of that advice if you also include the people who don't throw 400 feet.
Okay.
Like you're saying, 400 feet is not it's not like if you throw over 400 feet, you know what you're talking about. But if you throw over 400 feet, you're more likely to know what you're talking about.
Oh, definitely.
You're going to be able to give more effective advice. And like if you don't throw 400 feet, then there's not really much of a chance that you're going to be able to provide solid advice to someone.
Okay. Let's talk about this for a second, though, because I think there's some people who think that you need to be over a certain rating to give, because like that's probably a separate argument, but since we're on the subject, let's talk about it. I think that there are some people who think you need to be over 975, 980 to give good driving advice. Yes or no?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, I disagree.
Okay. So, how is that different than being able to throw far? Because there are, I guess a better question is, is there a ratings threshold that you would say someone needs to be rated higher than this?
No.
Okay. Because there are players who score extremely poorly. There are 800 rated players that can throw over 400 feet. I'm having a hard time telling someone who's trying to improve their form that an 800 rated or a 750 rated, or just someone that doesn't have a ton of experience, is going to be able to help them just because they can achieve this kind of distance milestone.
But distance is different than golf.
Okay.
You know the whole thing of playing golf and choosing your shots and knowing when to run putts and stuff like that. But being able to throw far is a completely different thing. That's why in golf you have the world record distance hitters are rarely on the tour.
They are never on the tour. Yeah.
Just because it's a different game. And I think the same definitely applies to disc golf.
Okay. So then here's one other thing for us to think about. I could muscle a stiletto close to 400 feet. Probably not, but just go with the example here. So let's do this. I'm AJ Risley.
Okay.
I always force flex every shot. Okay. Hyperbole, but go with me. I see someone throwing on Hyzer, but the only way that I can get over 400 feet is by force flexing the most overstable disc in my bag. I might go on there and think that I've unlocked the secret to distance and say, hey, you're throwing on Hyzer. That's not the way to get it. The only way to get over 400 is to force flex something as hard as you can. That's a problem for people who throw over 400 feet. I think that's too arbitrary of a number that distance shouldn't be the thing that defines whether you understand the throw or not.
Okay.
That's what I think. What do you think?
I think limiting regardless of whether it's good advice, limiting the amount of advice and cutting off the biggest proportion of players that are going to be prone to giving that bad advice is going to be beneficial.
Yes.
Right? So everyone, regardless of how far you throw, your point is that they don't necessarily give good advice.
Right.
I'm not trying to argue that if you throw over 400 feet, you're going to give good advice.
Okay.
But if you don't throw that far, then you're more likely to give bad advice.
Okay. Yeah.
That's more my argument. So getting rid of that is going to help raise the quality of disc golf form critiques.
I can dig that. If you're listening to this on an audio setup, go to the reviews and drop a comment in there. First of all, give us the old 5-star review.
Stars.
We'd really appreciate that. But let us know which side you agree with here. Is it Danny's side where you have to throw over 400 feet to comment effectively? Or is it my side where we should probably use a different metric to measure the effectiveness of these comments?
I would like to comment real quick on my actual opinion.
Yeah, please do.
That's okay. I think one of the best parts of the disc golf community is how helpful everyone is. And I think regardless of how far you throw, just you might phrase advice a different way that helps someone. A lot of teaching is phrasing the same advice in as many different ways as you can think of and looking for the one that sticks with the person that you're teaching. And so if something works for you and it's a tip that works for you, then I would not want to stop anyone from trying to help another player.
Having that said, if it's like, I think that probably works best in like a swing thought sort of way. Let me clarify what I mean by that. So if somebody says, hey, I'm having trouble rounding, and one of the suggestions given to them is one that you've said before, which is watch the stamp on the disc as it passes your body. That's a great swing thought to have. But that may not be the best swing thought for everybody. What if you're struggling with a different issue?
Muscling, yeah.
Yeah, and the answer that somebody gives is watch the stamp on the way by. So I think that when we're talking like swing thoughts, when we're talking specific little things, that stuff can be very valuable across the board. But if you're saying like, hey, you need to turn your front foot a little bit more closed when you throw, that may not be the best thing for everybody to do.
And I think that vetting that advice, the responsibility falls on the person who posted the video rather than the people who are posting the comments.
I'm with you on that.
Because you're asking the internet for advice, you're going to get lots of advice. And that's one of the great parts of the disc golf community is how helpful everybody is.
Yeah.
So if you post a video, taking everyone's advice as gospel, if they don't link a video from someone who's more knowledgeable, not thinking of myself, I'm thinking of like Seabass 22 or something like that.
Sure.
Or maybe one of the videos that I've made here at Dynamic Discs or something like that. That's probably the best way that I would advise people to give advice is to link videos and stuff like that, because it's generally going to come from the more accepted as correct type of teaching.
I like this. This was a good hot take.
I like it.
All right. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in to Disc Golf Hot Takes. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Hey, you like that one, chat?
I like that one a lot.
I like that one. I see that sentiment a lot there's a Disc Golf Form Check Facebook page and also on the Disc Golf
If you can't
Anti-Man
throw
page.
far.
And I'll scroll through some of those and I'll see some advice that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm really hesitant to get in there and argue with people. I mean, not argue, but maybe correct them, because that might make them either embarrassed or they won't want to advise people in the future. And that's not at all what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And so I've just accepted that it's going to be, it falls on the person posting the video, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I also think that the way that you position or phrase what you're going to say helps a lot. Like, I think if I'm going to give advice, I'll say, this is something that works for me. It may not work for you. But to position yourself as an expert when you aren't actually one, that's what can kind of get you in trouble. I think. A couple of super chats that we didn't get to mention. 888 Huskers hit us with another 5. Thanks, man. He said, you can trust everything you read on the internet. Hashtag internet distance.
Facts.
You right. Hey, speaking of, I threw 500 feet the other day on the internet.
Exceedingly relevant. Aaron Tom posted earlier, the sheer quantity of forehand power on this podcast is immense.
Hey, okay. First of all, listen here, Aaron Tom. Okay. One time, there was a hole in Texas that I was playing in a tournament, and it read 415 feet, and it was a very late right turn. And I said, you know what? I don't think I can do this, but what if I take my most overstable disc, my fastest one, and just crank on it, hard as I can on Anheuser, and see what happens? And I only came up 60 short. Okay, so that's 350 feet of raw power.
There was a hole at the tournament I played last weekend that was like 360, and it was a forehand line, and I threw it at definitely not full power.
Sure.
I was definitely not throwing it as hard as I could in like a 25-mile-an-hour tailwind on an Anheuser.
Yes.
I was definitely, just so we're clear, this was like 10% power, not even trying.
Right.
And I went OB long.
Oh my gosh, can you believe it?
Yeah, so...
Wow. Times are tough, man. I'll tell you what. One other super chat coming in from Ahem Slayer.
Oh, that's my buddy Seth.
He says, side note, if you're looking for awesome form critique, go to Danny's Twitch, twitch.tv/DannyDisc.
It's you, boy.
I went from brand new to 420 plus in less than a year with his help. Hashtag Team Danny. Hey, you have a person in Team Danny now.
I do. I've had several people.
Yeah, you have somewhere like in your Discord. See, I don't.
We have a private chat. We haven't invited you yet.
Oh, freaking dang.
We're not going to either.
All right, next time. It's just whatever. It's whatever. All right, let's hop into the chat here and just answer some questions.
Yeah, someone was asking about how to keep the nose down on a Hyzer. That's usually going to be following through up. A lot of times people will build their form throwing in a field. They'll build it around the flat shot or Anheuser release where your weight's kind of back over your heels, and then they'll just try and use that same form but throw on a Hyzer, and that's going to pop the nose up. So my advice is to shift your weight over your toes and raise your follow through up, because that will help you get the nose down a lot more.
I dig that. Here's a comment. Fast is rough and rough is far. That's what I teach.
Run really fast and throw it hard.
That's correct. Richard says, I would happily attend a clinic by either Danny or Robert. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. I like doing clinics, especially on things that like I'm actually okay at, like putting. I'll talk about throwing if we're talking like really super beginner, or even like at the intermediate level. I think I have some good things to teach. But as far as demonstrating goes, once you get to like, hey, I'm going to take you from 990 to 1015. Yeah, that's not my spot.
That's why I like the question and answer format that we do at a lot of DD tournaments. Mm-hmm. Like if there's a big team DD clinic where it's like all the touring players will line up and everybody will be able to choose which question they answer. That's the best way to do it, I think, because then you get the best advice from the players who are the best in the game.
I like that Aaron says, keep eating those tomahawk steaks and your overhand game will get so good, Robert. Yes, thank you. If you don't follow me on Instagram, obviously, what are you doing? I mean, it's the best follow. It's not. But my in-laws were in town this last week. They brought along with them 2 tomahawk steaks. And if you're unfamiliar, tomahawk steak is a steak from like, I don't remember what section of ribs it is. It's like between the 6th and 12th or something like that. But it's a ribeye attached to this massive bone. And so I cooked them on our Rectech, the RT700 that they sent over to us, which was, it's awesome. And I'm just saying, if you're trying to see what tomahawk steaks are supposed to look like, check out at J. Robert McCall. They turned out so good. And like, I didn't do that. I didn't do anything special other than just have the equipment to do them well. Come on. They were so good.
Aaron knows what he's talking about.
He does. And
that's nasty.
So that I appreciated that.
Chris says, you said not to intentionally wrist curl, but it seems to help you on floaty upshots. Upshots is something different because usually you're not trying to maximize your grip so you can maximize your power. So usually curling your wrist and kind of keeping your elbow down will help with those floaty upshots. I should have clarified. Yeah, that's mainly just for distance drives. Seth asked about the Recruit Light Basket. This is one right here. It is exceptionally portable. It takes less than a minute to set up if you're good at it.
It's so easy to set up, and it's not that heavy. I think what did we say, 35 pounds?
Yep.
I don't remember what veteran is. I couldn't think of the name for a second, but they're heavy. Like when we have to move those for a tournament or whatever, they are a bear to move around. This is super easy, super duper easy.
Did you see Bobby posted on our internal page? He said he's moving. Don't remember which day, and he needed help. And I commented.
I enjoyed that very much. I will be there to move things with one hand, as I am very strong.
Let me pull it up and read it because it's quality.
That was quite good. Philip, I saw that Paul Ulibarri did make that video, but I haven't seen the video itself.
It's quality. It's good stuff about upshots.
Let's see. Pat says, are disc golf holes measured as the crow flies or on the ideal line of play? Seems like it flip-flops from course to course, so the tee signs are often inconsistent. I usually, if I was to make one, I would do it on line of play. Because as the crow flies on a par 4 with a dog leg doesn't help you. Yeah. So that's the way I think we usually do that.
I think usually if it's like a dog leg, it'll be either rangefinder or whatever. And then Emax said at some point he uses like GPS, a rangefinder, and then walks it with one of those wheelie do things. And then averages them. Yep. Or something like that. But yeah, it's going to vary a little bit from course to course, which is why it's important to practice courses before you play them in a tournament. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, talk about your your contribution.
After Bobby asked for help moving, I said, resident big, strong muscle dude checking in to say, I'll be there so nobody else really has to worry about showing up. If you want me to just carry the entire house with a beer in my left hand, I could, but it sounds like it's just a super easy to carry and lightweight furniture and stuff. I appreciate the opportunity to lift more things because at the gym that I go to all the time actually doesn't have enough weights for me to really get a good workout in. Okay, cool, sounds good. I'll see you there.
Yeah, it's fantastic, dude.
That's what people know me as.
Yeah.
They say, wow, Danny, he's just...
Danny big muscles.
He's huge.
That's what they say. Cody says, any advice on controlling nose angle on forehand drives so I don't throw too high or too low? I seem to control the Hyzer flat and Anheuser angle fine. Seem to throw too low or high sometimes.
I think for forehand, it's mostly wrist angle. It's just repetition and focusing on getting that nose down. Don't you think? Because it's literally just tilting your wrist.
Yep, I'm with that. Husker says, is it possible to order stock stamp discs from the hot stamp program to get them all in a particular stamp color? I guess you could. I don't know. Email custom@dynamicdiscs.com and Maddie can tell you all about that. He knows. Casey Photography said, I think in order to give advice, you needed at some point in your life to have a pencil mustache.
Is that like actually grow one or just draw it on with a pencil?
That's a win. Danny Big Flex.
Hey, yeah. That's how I throw the big flicks.
Big flex.
Backhand, slow, smooth as far. Forehands, you have to have really strong muscles and run really fast and throw it as hard as you can.
Yeah, because you're not like throwing against your body. So running fast helps a lot.
Yeah. You just yeet it. That's my best forehand clinic is just I walk up there and go, yeet, and throw it.
And then that's it.
Yep.
You did it. We're going to take a couple more minutes for questions here. If you guys have them before we hop off, drop them in the chat below, please.
As the Simon disc flies, then like some holes would measure twice as long because he just goes up and over.
Yeah, he crazy.
Yeah.
Philip says forehand, make sure your grip is exactly the same every throw when you practice and the height control will come.
Yep.
That's true.
Following through forward is good too. I see a lot of people who will follow through down on their forehands and kind of air skip them. Follow through forward, get your weight shifted forward.
Yes, I agree. Ryan Sheldon, but actually dude's insane. Yeah, Ryan was on the coverage at the Preserve, and dude was crushing forehands.
Sick.
Absolutely smashing him. Anyway, guys, I think that's about it for us today. Appreciate you guys joining us for the afternoon of Disc Golf Answer Man and Disc Golf Hot Takes.
It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone asked about finger pops, Danny Big Pops Lindahl. I think that's one typo away from being big poops, and I'm not down to be called big poops.
Not so great. But that's it.
I got poop jokes.
Yeah.
If you want them.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. We will see you guys next week.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Okay, bye.